Coming up on KPBS Evening Edition, a San Diego State fraternity is suspended after a student is found dead in a frat house. And the military makes a final decision about a Marine who criticized the president on Facebook.
And we'll talk with a retired four-star general about what the military is doing for veterans and troops with post-traumatic stress disorder. KPBS Evening Edition starts now.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Dwayne Brown.
And I'm Peggy Pico in for Joanne Farian.
San Diego State fraternity has been suspended 5 days after a student was found dead inside a frat house on campus. 20-year-old Barzine Barzanji died Friday morning at the Phi Kappa Theta house. The cause of death is still under investigation. Barzanji was president of another fraternity and had attended a party at Phi Kappa Theta the night before he died. The suspension means the fraternity has to cease nearly all activities and stay drug and alcohol free until the investigation is complete.
Today, the Sheriff's Department released its final report on a New Year's Day shooting rampage in Coronado, but it offers no explanation on why a naval officer shot 3 people before killing himself. The report says the gunman John Robert Reeves had just come home from celebrating New Year's Eve with his roommate David Reese. Both men were pilots in training. Reese's sister Karen was with them, as well as Matthew Satterley from Chula Vista. The report says Reeves shot Karen Reese and Satterley first, then his roommate before turning the gun on himself. But deputies say there was no clear motive for the killings.
Crime rates dropped to a 30-year low in San Diego last year. The San Diego Association of Governments says the overall crime rate fell to just under 24 crimes per 1,000 people, the lowest rate since 1981. There was one exception to the downward trend. The murder rate went up for the first time since 2006. Sandag says domestic violence accounted for 30% of last year's murders.
Hey, Camp Pendleton Marine is being officially discharged for criticizing President Barack Obama and saying he would disobey orders on Facebook. Sergeant Gary Stein will be demoted and will get an other than honorable discharge for violating Pentagon policy on political speech by service members. The discharge means Stein will lose most of his benefits on Facebook. Today, Stein said, quote, "No one can take the title of Marine away from me. Today is just the start of the rest of my life."
San Diego mayoral candidate Nathan Fletcher made national news recently when he left the Republican Party. Now, dozens of San Diego business leaders are following his lead. Joining me with the story is KPBS senior news editor Mark Sauer. Tell us about today's announcement, Mark.
Well, about 40 CEOs and business owners are forming a coalition they call Movement to the Middle. They're fed up with ideological partisan politics and gridlock at every level of government, so they're registering now as independents.
How would you describe their political platform?
They say they're socially liberal and fiscally conservative problem solvers, simply interested in progress.
And what has the response been from the candidates for San Diego mayor here?
District Attorney Bonnie DeMonis called it part of Fletcher's ongoing political soap opera. Councilman Carl DeMaio said Fletcher and his backers are continuing their masterful political gamesmanship. And Fletcher, who's neck and neck with DeMaio in the latest poll for mayor, says he's delighted with the business owners' move.
KPBS senior news editor Mark Sauer.
A judge says California State Controller does not have the authority to withhold lawmakers' pay when they miss their budget deadline, despite a voter-approved law to stop the paychecks. Last year, John Chung halted lawmakers' pay for 12 days after determining their budget wasn't balanced. Today, a Sacramento judge said Chung's move violated the state constitution. The ruling appears to undermine Proposition 25, which voters passed in 2010. The measure requires an on-time, balanced budget, or lawmakers would have their pay docked. The Irvine City Council is asking the Nuclear Regulatory Commission not to renew the license of the San Onofre nuclear power plant when it expires in 2022. The city is 22 miles away from the plant. Officials say they also want the plant operator, Southern California Edison, to expand its evacuation plans from a 10-mile radius to 50 miles.
Federal and state agricultural officials are working to find out more about a dairy cow found to have mad cow disease. The discovery in the Central Valley of California is the first new case in the U.S. since 2006. Mad cow is a fatal brain disease, and it's been reported in the U.S. only 3 times before. California health and food officials say the food supply is safe. They say the cow was not for human consumption and people cannot get the disease from drinking milk. San Diego County got an F in air quality from the American Lung Association. The group's newest report says San Diego ranks 7th on its list of the most ozone-polluted areas in the country. Still, the Lung Association says our air is improving and would get better if people drove less and used cleaner burning vehicles. Tonight, the Solana Beach City Council votes on a proposal to ban single-use plastic bags. It would apply to grocery stores, pharmacies, and other retailers. The stores would have the option to charge customers 10 cents for recyclable bags. More than 2 million service members have deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan in the last 10 years, and it's taking a toll. Many are dealing with PTSD, drug and alcohol abuse, and suicide. This week in San Diego, a national conference focused on those issues. Peggy is talking about that with her guests at the Evening Edition Roundtable.
More than 600 health professionals, including doctors, nurses, and counselors, along with active military members, are attending this week's conference. The meeting is sponsored by the Foundation's Recovery Network. Retired Army General Barry McCaffrey has agreed to talk with us about PTSD, a key issue at the conference. General McCaffrey, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Yeah, the Department of Veterans Affairs estimates there's 1 in 8 veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan that has some degree of post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD. What do you think about these numbers? Are they accurate? And what does it tell us about these new veterans coming home compared to veterans of other wars?
Well, you know, it's hard to know the accuracy of our numbers. What we do know is there's 2 million men and women who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, many of them in intense combat. You know, I sometimes remind people there's 53,000 killed and wounded. And then an additional number coming home that have been encountered other difficulties, PTSD, a new signature problem of this war, traumatic brain injury, TBI, and many of them, maybe 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5, come home with significant alcohol abuse problems. And I think a lot of this is stress-related, away from home. A lot of these troops now have served multiple combat tours, 8, 9, 10 deployments. And encountered some pretty intense situations. So that's what this conference is about. The national experts, what are we going to do to better take care of our veterans?
And that just brings me to my next question is, do the multiple tours, does that impact, do you believe that is impacting PTSD and the numbers that we're seeing?
Oh, sure. I don't think there's any question about it. You know, we stuck a veteran up on stage in Colorado Springs at a conference I was at a few months back, and he had had 10 combat tours, been wounded twice. So there is a cumulative effect of all this, and never mind the other problems that come along with it, separation from family. You know, I think we have to take into account that not since World War II have we put a very small military through such a long and sort of open-ended responsibility.
Certainly very arduous. Now, I have to ask you, is the military doing anything in advance of deployment to screen the troops for PTSD?
Well, I think increasingly throughout the war. Remember, it's going on for over a decade now, and we've still got 100,000 troops in combat in Afghanistan, withdrawing on a predictable rate here by 2014. But there is an enhanced recognition on the part of the chain of command that PTSD and stress is a challenge to us, never mind underlying alcohol abuse problems, indiscipline, etc. There's an attempt to train to screen troops before they deploy. You have a baseline to sort of judge when they come back, how are they doing. But like any big institution, to some extent, these soldiers, Marines, Special Ops, airmen, sailors don't want to report themselves. They're in as volunteers, they're proud of what they're doing, and they feel stigmatized. Now, we're overcoming that. It's much better now, but it's a continuing challenge.
That's always been a challenge for the military with PTSD. Now, in your keynote speech, you talk about the massacre of more than a dozen civilians in Afghanistan. Sergeant Robert Bales, we all know now, is accused of that crime. Does the military see crimes like that as part of a bigger mental health issue, or do they isolate those?
Well, we'll know more about Sergeant Bales, I'm sure, in the coming months and years, and obviously there's a legal presumption of innocence until he's proven guilty. But probably what we're seeing with Sergeant Bales is, for a couple of years there, we definitely lowered our standards. So he came in with prior misdemeanor assault charges with alcohol-related incidents, with a civil fraud charge. Then we had him on 3 combat tours, and I think what you're going to learn in the coming months of his eventual trial, that was an alcohol-induced rage murder that he was involved in. I mean, it was completely unseen. The Marines that were accused of murders in Haditha were reacting to an immediate attack where one of their buddies had been killed. This was something different. So I think he's a mental health challenge.
He's got his own challenge. We only have a couple of seconds left, but if you can tell me in a sentence or two, what is the government doing to address these issues? What can be done? What's coming out of the conference?
A lot more needs to be done. The Veterans Administration, the second biggest department in our government, does a splendid job. These are the finest supported troops in the country's history. Having said that, right now they're trying to hire 1,900 more mental health caregivers. So it's going to take us time to build a capacity to institutionalize what we need to take care of America's veterans. And by the way, we've got to remind ourselves it's the most battle-hardened force in our country's history, the most effective military we've ever fielded. But they've got high rates of unemployment, high rates of homelessness. We got to do something to better care for America's veterans.
A lot of issues. General McCaffrey, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Today, the U.S. Supreme Court heard arguments about Arizona's controversial immigration law. A new report says migration from Mexico to the U.S. is at a standstill. We've got some analysis from our Fronteras desk in just a moment. And we'll show you how peer-to-peer counseling has led to the 25-year success of the Alpha Project in San Diego. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
Tonight on KPBS Explorer Wednesday at 8, 25 years after Chernobyl, follow the lives of a pack of wolves and other wildlife in the dead zone that surrounds the remains of the reactor on Nature. Then at 9, see the sun as you never have before and watch scientists recreate the center of the sun in the lab on Nova. And at 10 on America Revealed, the nation's power grid, its intricacies, vulnerabilities, and ingenuity. That's all tonight on KPBS.
Next time on Doc Martin.
You made me do it.
There are strange things happening at Louisa's job.
This room smells funny.
Yes, I know.
Joe is trying to impress his ex-wife.
Anyone who upsets my Maggie upsets me, and I really don't think you want to do that.
And Louisa makes a difficult decision about her life with Martin.
This is how it's always going to be, isn't it? You and me. I just can't do this anymore.
Doc Martin.
Thursday at 9 on KPBS. KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Irwin Jacobs and by
The nonprofit Alpha Project runs San Diego's winter homeless shelter each year. It also provides many other support services for people who are mentally ill, disabled, or addicted to drugs and alcohol. In the final part of our series, we'll see how peer-to-peer counseling is key to the program's success.
That's what rehabilitation is getting off your butt and doing something positive.
Bob McElroy didn't always care about the homeless or felons until he had a revelation one day.
God cussed at me. That's the way God talks to me. And told me, oh yeah, he told me get the hell out of his house, man. If you're not going to do something with it.
So he did, and the Alpha Project was born 25 years ago in San Diego.
It's all about common sense. It's all about helping somebody in need. It's all about giving the gifts and talents that you have and share them with somebody else. It's all about lifting people up, not putting people down. It's all about, I'm not pointing out the speck in your eye when I got a telephone pole in my own. It's all about doing something.
Jason Rodriguez has heard it all before. He's a former drug addict who grew up in Vista and graduated from Casa Rafael, the Alpha Project's residential treatment center.
Didn't make it the first time. Had some reservations. Thought I can still go out there and do and drink and just get away with stuff.
He ended up back in jail 2 weeks before graduating, but Rodriguez eventually went back and now manages the treatment center.
We're taking it back to basics, and we're teaching guys who have been homeless, been in prison, jail. We're teaching them the basic responsibilities of life. And a lot of guys forget that or never learn that.
This used to be the highest crime rate in San Diego.
McElroy says the main difference between this state licensed treatment program and others
We've got to identify these things if you want to change it, right?
is 86% of his counselors are former drug addicts or felons.
I mean, if you can run a dope enterprise and you can cook dope and you have distributing skills and money management skills, we just need to get that stinking thinking taken care of to do something constructive.
He says the rehab program is also saving taxpayers money.
Okay, we've proven over the years, tens of thousands of times over, men and women, given an opportunity to change, they're taxpayers now. They're saving the taxpayer 80 grand, 60 grand to keep them incarcerated, another 10 or 15 grand for the court system. All the cops that have been chasing them around for 20 years. Now they're working side by side with those same cops, securing neighborhoods. They're paying taxes, they're paying restitution, they're taking care of their families. I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I ain't quitting. You guys don't quit, we'll make it happen.
McElroy says 80% of the graduates from Casa Rafael have stayed clean and sober for more than 3 years, and some have gone through the program multiple times before getting back on track.
The U.S. Supreme Court began hearing arguments today on an immigration law that could affect us all. Arizona's SB 1070 was signed into law 2 years ago and was met with a storm of criticism. At the time, SB 1070 was the strictest anti-immigration law in the country. But a lower court blocked some of its provisions, and today the Supreme Court is considering those provisions to see if they're constitutional. Joining me to talk about today's case before the Supreme Court is Elisa Barba, senior editor at our Fronteras Changing America desk. And Elisa, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
I guess the first thing is, can you give us an overview of SB 1070 and then also specifically what parts are being considered today?
SB 1070 was a law passed, as you said, 2 years ago in Arizona, and it's essentially a broad-based crackdown on the illegal immigrant population. It's one of probably the fourth in a series of very stringent laws passed in Arizona that seeks to deny public services, to keep illegal immigrants out of the schools as much as possible. This one is about, it basically requires, these are some of the controversial provisions that are being heard today at the Supreme Court. It requires police officers to ask for legal documentation from anybody they stop at a traffic stop or something like that. It also allows police officers or law enforcement to arrest somebody without a warrant if there's a reasonable suspicion that they're in the country illegally. It makes it a state crime to be in Arizona without legal papers. It also makes it a state crime to work in Arizona if you don't have legal papers.
Yeah, and I think one of the main questions was that what is reasonable, a reason to stop somebody and ask? I know that's something that a lot of people, a lot of critics were talking about. But in today's court session, what are some of the main arguments and how so far have the justices responded to that?
Well, back to that question about what's a reasonable suspicion. So there's a lot of people who believe that this kind of law can lead to racial profiling, that you could see somebody on the street and say, oh, that person looks like an illegal immigrant, I'm going to pull them over. The justices didn't want to hear anything about that. Basically, the argument against the law by the Obama administration was essentially that this oversteps the federal responsibility to carry out immigration law, that the federal government is supposed to carry out immigration law, and if the state is going to be enforcing immigration law, number one, they don't understand all the nuances, and number two, it oversteps their authority. Arguing in favor of the law was a lawyer, Clemente, from Arizona, who basically says, you know, we've been forced to carry the burden of the federal government not enforcing their own immigration laws. Our state is overrun with illegal immigrants, health costs, school costs, high crime, you know, drug smuggling, human smuggling across the border, that our state has to do this, and since the federal government isn't enforcing their own laws, we're going to go ahead and do it.
On that note, the Pew Hispanic Center, ironically, right about now, just released a report that said illegal immigration is down in the U.S. Anything you can say about that, and does it pertain to illegal immigrants?
Basically, they're saying that migration from Mexico, and the time period they used was 2005 to 2010, so that does not track the migrants since 2010 when this law was passed. So this was just 2005 to 2010. During that period, the number of people migrating and immigrating illegally and legally from Mexico equaled the number of people, more or less, who were going back to Mexico. So there was a net zero migration in and out of this country. And that's the first time that that's happened since the 1930s. So that's really extraordinary. Why it's happening is something that the study doesn't address. They give lots of different reasons. Primarily, my belief is that primarily it's the economy. I mean, a lot of Mexican workers will be working in the construction industries, especially here in the Southwest, and that has just evaporated since 2008. If there's no work, a lot of people will go home. Also, increased enforcement. A number of deportations are way up. So there is some of the enforcement and the economy. There's also some issues back in Mexico that affect this as well. But it is ironic that the argument is that the federal government is not enforcing its own laws and we have this flood of illegal immigrants, but in fact the numbers are say something different.
And even though those numbers don't pertain, like you say, this report, particularly after the 2010, some of this law has gone into effect, and it does have an impact already on California and Arizona.
Well, absolutely. There are some provisions of the law that have gone into effect. Sanctuary cities are not allowed in Arizona. In other words, if you say that, okay, my city is going to give legal sanctuary to illegal immigrants, that's against the law in Arizona. Secondly, citizens in Arizona can sue law enforcement if they see them not enforcing immigration law, which is quite extraordinary. So that's pretty much put police departments in Arizona on watch, that they have to work very hard to see that they're, following up every lead on this kind of thing. So what impact has this had? There has been a net decrease in the number of illegal immigrants living in Arizona, according to our best estimates. But again, did they leave because of the bad economy, or did they leave because of this law? It's hard to say. A few other states, have passed very similar laws. This law is kind of considered a blueprint for cracking down on illegal immigrants. Most famously, Alabama. And Alabama has, in fact, had real problems, actually, harvesting their crops, that the agricultural workers have fled the state, apparently.
Right, and we're showing you from the New York Times a graphic of the immigration laws that have been passed in various states. Now, one question is, with the immigration patterns, is there or has anybody documented an influx of immigrants coming to California from Arizona, let's say, because construction jobs are here for whatever reason?
You know what, I've never seen any figures that show that people actually have come to California from Arizona. We do know that Arizona numbers are down, but I believe California illegal immigrant numbers are down as well because of the economy. There is some sense that people have gone to New Mexico. You can get a driver's license in New Mexico if you are an illegal immigrant. So there is some evidence that people have gone there. There's some evidence that people have gone to Utah, which is considered to be a little bit softer on illegal immigrants. So I can't say conclusively that it's had an impact here. The impact that this will have, though, on California and other states, in the Supreme Court today, it did seem as if the justices actually were in support of some of these very controversial provisions of the law. So if they uphold the Arizona law, essentially that kind of opens up a Pandora box to allow other states to pass immigration laws in their own right. And we might see something like that in California. In particular, what you might see are laws allowing guest workers to come from Mexico or to come from other parts of the world to come and work and help in our agricultural industry, because that has depended on immigrant workers, and it has suffered.
So certainly states are watching what is happening here. A lot of people have got their eyes on this. Alicia Barba, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
A new PBS initiative wants your opinion about the nation's future. We'll tell you how you can take part in just a moment. This is KPBS Evening Edition.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next News Hour, Supreme Court arguments over Arizona's tough immigration law, plus a campaign update. That's Wednesday on the PBS News Hour.
He was faced the world's fastest human.
The quintessential Olympic hero.
But his triumph was in more than just a race.
The Olympics were to be a symbol of German racial superiority. Hitler was absolutely livid.
After winning all those gold medals, he expected the whole nation to love him. And here, the greatest athlete in America is being treated shabbily.
Jesse Owens on American Experience.
Tuesday at 8 on KPBS.
The American people have named PBS the most trusted source of news and public affairs.
For the 8th year in a row.
Trust.
The American people have spoken.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Public Square on KPBS Evening Edition. Tonight we join PBS NewsHour to ask, how hopeful are you about the future of America? It's part of a national PBS campaign called Listen to Me, and we are. Some answers are already coming in. 26-year-old Jonathan Perrine from Tucson, Arizona says, I am hopeful because I finally hear voices that want to try and fix the system instead of voices that allow rabid issue voters to dominate national politics. We'd like to hear from you about how hopeful you are about the future of America. You can let us know by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and you can always email us at news@kpbs.org. Now here's Dwayne for a recap of tonight's top stories.
San Diego State University has suspended a fraternity while a death at the frat house is investigated. 20-year-old Barzine Barzanji died at the Phi Kappa Theta house Friday. The county medical examiner is waiting for the results of toxicology tests. San Diego County's crime rate dropped last year to its lowest level in 3 decades. The San Diego Association of Government says the overall rate dropped to 24 out of 1,000 residents, but the county's murder rate increased by 22% last year. And today, the Marine Corps says it is demoting and discharging Gary Stein, that Camp Pendleton Marine who criticized President Obama on Facebook. Stein had said he wouldn't follow the president's orders. He was discharged under other than honorable conditions. That means he loses most of his benefits. You can watch and comment on any of the stories you saw tonight on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. You have a great night. We leave you with a look at the forecast.